as we talked, I was like, okay, but how did we get here?
Right.
How did this happen? At least in our context, which, is Middle America, even
church, suburban,
American church, Western civilization,
sure.
evangelicalism. I mean, do we live in the Bible Belt technically?
Yeah.
I mean, we live in Middle America, Missouri. I used to really live in the Bible Belt when I lived in.
We have to drive past multiple churches to get to the closest liquor store. So.
But when I lived in Springfield, I really lived in the Bible Belt too. So, and that's 2 hours away from here. So we were asking like, well, how did this come about? And just kind of give me a little bit of what you said before that led us to.
Yeah. And again, I confess freely, I'm not a historian or specifically a church historian, but there's a sense in which there's been a huge division in the last 100 plus years in the American church. You sort of have these mainline denominations that evangelicals would call liberal Christians that have departed away from a strong, whatever we would consider a strong stance on Scripture, biblical inerrancy. Mm-hmm. And they've embraced sort of more social justice movement or even social gospel, saying that, what matters is the living out of this gospel and the loving people and the caring for their needs. And then sort of in this weird response to that, you have fundamentalism, evangelicalism that says, yeah, poverty is a big deal, but what really matters is spiritual poverty. What really matters is knowing where you're going when you die. What really matters is being able to trust the scriptures. And what happens is you've got these two interlocking pieces that are kind of divorced from one another, right? The gospel's always supposed to be about justice. It's about love. It has to be, obviously, loving God and loving one another. That's part of this gospel message. But there's also spiritual truth too here. And I think about what we were talking about, as far as the difference between the gospel of Jesus and sort of this gospel of Paul. And what's funny in these two camps is you have one camp that's sort of this social justice camp that says, and this is, N.T. Wright talks about this, and he says it better than I ever could, but that this group sees Jesus's life and his work and his healing and his miracles and his care for the poor. And it's like, man, he was off to such a good start. It's too bad he had to die. Right. Mm-hmm. Which for evangelicals, we laugh at that. That's hysterical. And then on the evangelical side, the right side, you have this, man, it's a shame Jesus never preached the gospel.
Yeah.
And so these two pieces never see one another.